And we're recording.
Very good. So what we do with the recording is it's posted up for you guys for your viewing pleasure. And we're also, this time we've found a way to be able to put the keynote presentation up on the bulletin board for you to review, download, or whatever you wish. Because in the past, I was embedding the videos directly into the keynote, which made it into a huge file. So now what we're doing is I've created links and pasted the links into the keynote so that when you double click it, it'll open it up in Safari and you'll be able to watch the video there in the comfort of your own home, as you can watch it in the comfort of your own home today as well. So, gee, this is too bad because I wanted to open up the Q&A and I have a page on there with the Zoom questions.
You can just read them.
Well, I
just
can't.
read them.
Let me put it over onto my iPad so that I have it then. I'll open up Keynote there and find the right presentation.
Doesn't Keynote with two computers have like a presentation mode with one screen and then you can see what you're doing and then presentation in the other?
I'm not sure I follow you because I'm using my MacBook Pro for the Zoom, and if I put the screen for Keynote on at the same time, it'll take away the screen for Zoom. So that's what Ann was complaining about. That
yeah, I'm not familiar with Keynote.
Would it be possible to set up a second Zoom meeting using your other device?
I'm doing that. I have two laptops side by side. One is the admin logged in and one is me. You see me. So you see the user that has the DVMUG logo? That's the owner of the Zoom account that can make co-hosts and recording, and that's over on the side. And then I make co-hosts and I don't have to monitor that. And then I'm in control of the meeting there.
You're showing.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, what was that? You're able to do that. You've got a copy of the keynote.
Rick,
I could just read you the questions that are in the.
Well, I've got them right here. Okay, why do I even do a keynote then? Okay,
because once
the videos, the juice of the matter.
Yeah. Okay. So the question was from one person. How do I delete duplicate apps, in this case, older versions of PDF Pen, when I use OpenWith? Well, apparently PDF Pen, when they update, they don't update. They just sell you a new copy. So you can use an application remover to delete your old versions. So on the screenshot that the person submitted, it showed that there was like version, I don't remember the version numbers, version 1, 2, version 3, version 4, version 5. And if you're currently in version 6, then just delete the first 5.
So that was Greg's question, and he's here. And part of the thing with your question is you asked if you could delete it with the OpenWith menu that you provided the screenshot. The answer is no. So Rick is going to talk about how to delete the older apps using a tool.
Yes.
I would suggest that since it's the same app, just other versions, that you don't use an app cleaner, because it might find the preferences for your current app and get rid of them. Just
that's
throw
good
them in the trash.
advice. I would not use application removal program, John's exactly right. It may go in and delete all your settings, including your authorization to use, because that's not freeware PDF pen by any means.
Yeah, it should be. It's just finding the other versions. If you just go into your applications folder and look and see that you have other versions and throw them in the trash, it won't find them anymore.
Just drag them out.
Pretty simple. It does that to me. I have older versions of stuff, you know, different places, and I'll see multiple copies of stuff that I have them there for a reason. I want to be able to use the older version sometimes.
Also, if it's named the same, you can just drag it into the same place and it'll replace the old version.
When I do a search into the apps, it doesn't show the other versions though. It just shows the current one, 9.2, I believe it was.
Well, if the new
You
one,
may be finding them, it may be finding them on other hard drives you attached, backup hard drives.
Ah,
Yeah, it
Hadn't
searches
thought of the
all the
backup
mounted
hard drive.
drives, and it's fine. So you probably have other, maybe you have other clones that are older with other versions or something like that.
okay.
Probably.
So it could show up from Time Machine?
It's possible,
Possible.
no.
possible.
But
No.
if you've got a
Unmount the
clone,
time
that's where it
machine.
definitely would show up.
If you unmount the time machine and all the other drives and then do the same thing, it shouldn't find those other versions.
Okay, good, thanks.
Sure.
Once
Another
you
question-
set it one time, I mean, it's a one-time thing. Once you say use this version, you shouldn't have to go and look at that box again. It's a one-time thing.
Right, okay.
Another question we received was this one. I have been told it was inadvisable to install the newer version of Reminders. Is it okay now? Well, are you in, what is your operating system? I think it was Arlene who posted this question.
Hi, Sierra.
Yeah, and then
The
I
problem
don't-
with reminders and notes in iOS, are you on the latest version of iOS, like 13?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but
Okay,
she's
so
not on the
they
latest-
updated reminders, and to use that version of reminders in macOS, you also probably need one on Catalina. So if
Yeah.
you upgrade, if you convert to the new version on your phone, you won't be able to see reminders in macOS anymore. It won't be compatible. They did that with Notes a while ago.
I suspect that Arlene's probably current on iOS, but
Yeah.
she's using High Sierra on her
No, I
Mac.
didn't.
So
I'm getting
it's
closer
pretty
though
your
to being
question
able
in
to
a
upgrade.
word. To answer your
It's-
question in a word, no, it's not safe for you to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Why aren't you in Catalina?
Well, because I still have problems with old software, but I'm getting closer. I'm down to about one item now that I need to work on before I can upgrade.
Okay. Jennifer, are you here today?
Jennifer, mute your
Yes,
speaker.
I'm here. My
Oh,
daughter's
okay.
calling me.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
I'll take your question after you answer the phone. Just
did.
mute
I
yourself,
said-
okay?
I already said no.
Oh, okay.
I hung
the
up on my daughter for you.
Thank you. Jennifer's question was, can I pay my DVMUG dues via Apple Pay?
Not that we know of.
Well, that's an interesting question. Does anyone know if I can get the code to embed on our website to use Apple Pay?
I do not know.
I do. I pay via Apple Pay.
No, I mean on the DVMUG website. Can I get? I just read the question this afternoon, and I haven't had a chance to research it yet. But probably there's some script that would allow me to link that to our PayPal or something.
We
Anybody
probably
a
have,
clue?
it would be a credit card intake, and we'd have to accept credit card payments into our bank from our website. It sounds way too complicated.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, second question. I don't know if I'm paid because I love your Zoom meetings.
Well,
You-
there is a PayPal button on the website where you can pay the dues.
You can pay via credit card, You don't have to have a PayPal account, or you can send by
Or can I
check
go
that way.
online and see if I've paid or not? I
Oh,
don't-
we can look that up for you. Somebody, Rick, after the meeting can look up your membership status to see if you're
I'll just
current.
look you up right now.
And I will go stir my spaghetti sauce. Don Nelson, pay attention. Hello, Don Nelson. He's
Not listening.
okay. Well, somebody else admit the people. I'll be back in 2.
Okay. Yeah, Jennifer, I have access to the database, and I can find that out for you as soon as the
I'm gonna look
meeting's
it up right
over.
now.
Oh,
I'm looking
okay.
up over here.
Yeah, John's got multiple computers. He can do that.
All right, thanks.
So the next question is, why do I keep getting a dialogue saying first class would like to record the screen? To do so, open preferences, accept or deny, and how can I stop that?
I get that too, and I'm not sure what it is. Just say no.
Yeah, that's what I do, is I just click deny.
It's part of this new security thing, and they were everything you want. The first class application has the capacity to record your screen, so it's asking, and you'd have to go into your system preference and say, okay, allow screen recording for this app. Just say no, we don't do that.
Yeah. It sounds, didn't Nancy Reagan say that? Just say no, something like that.
Just say no.
Okay, so I guess any other questions that are creating an issue for folks?
Rick, I have a question. Dan here.
Jennifer, you expire in, wow, you're expired now, February 28th of 20. So you are expired.
That's what I thought. That's why I feel
Yeah,
so
you should got
guilty.
an email from Rick about that, yeah.
Yeah, not only an email, but a US mail letter, right?
Well, I've moved, so I'll get it.
Oh,
Oh, well,
Oh.
be sure and give us your new phone
Yeah, I
numbers
will.
and new address and everything, but we
yeah,
didn't
we
get your
still,
email back.
we still got you on Tice Creek Drive.
Oh, that's
Okay,
right.
okay, you can settle that later. Dan had a
Right.
question.
Yeah, how can I save on my iPad an Excel document, a Word document, or any kind of document on an iPad? I have all sorts of applications that I use frequently, but
The
I don't know.
iPad's operating system is not like a computer. It
I
doesn't
know,
have a
that's why I'm
desktop.
asking the question.
But, well, I'll get to the answer. But since it doesn't have the ability to create folders and stuff on the desktop, you have to use an alternative means. And that links right into the iCloud. And you can save your work into the iCloud, into your iCloud account. It would be a good idea to organize that account so that you don't lose stuff. And then you can access it from any of your other computers or iPhones.
You use on the iOS devices, look for something called Files. It's an application, and that's
Yeah.
equivalent to the Mac Finder. It looks at your iCloud Drive. You can make folders in there and such. And when you go to your Mac, you go to the Go menu, go to your iCloud Drive, you'll see the same folder structure as you see in the Files app on your iOS devices.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, John.
Yeah, that Files is new with the latest iteration of the iOS system that came out, and it's pretty handy.
You could also put your stuff in Dropbox if you were so inclined, but Dropbox has gotten much less useful now that they limit you to 3 devices, where the iCloud Drive is unlimited devices.
Yeah.
So I switched to iCloud Drive.
What's the difference between the iCloud Drive and iCloud? I'm
iCloud Drive is
confused about the two.
iCloud Drive is one feature of iCloud. If you go into your settings in iOS or system preferences on the Mac, you'll see iCloud, and when you open it up, you'll see all these little blue sliders you can turn on: iCloud Drive, Photos, Contacts, Calendar, all these different things you can turn on. The ones you turn on, if it's turned on any other device is turned on, they synchronize. So iCloud Drive is one of the things you could use.
So if my iCloud is full, I can't use iCloud Drive.
Well, what they're telling you is your iCloud Drive space is full.
Yeah.
That's where your iOS backups would go there, your photos syncing, your iCloud Drive documents. So they give you 5 gigs for free, which is not a lot. You start backing up, and especially if you have a lot of photos and you turn it on, it won't fit anymore. So the next step is reasonable for most people. Have to go for 99 cents a month. It goes from 5 to 50. If you're on 50 and it's getting full, that means you really have a lot of photos or something. Your next step is $3 a month, and that goes to 200 gigs.
Bill Goldberg
For
has
5,
his
you
hand
probably need to go to 50. It's $1 a month.
Bill Goldberg has his hand raised. Go ahead, Bill.
First, I had to figure out how to unmute since I am not on a Mac or iOS device. Sorry, folks.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, very good. Even with the opera in the background. I had a question about first class.
Yes.
First, I need to figure out my account login. I lost all that. But the other is, are there versions of it that can run on much older Mac operating systems that are available?
Yes. On our webpage, we have download for some older versions. I have to look real quick and see what those would be.
Yeah, because I couldn't
But if you
find
go
a link
to
to
go to
older
the
versions.
webpage to dvmug.org and look under BBS, you'll see what we have for downloads. And I'm not getting there. Stand by. Okay, under BBS, I see the current version is 16.116. The next version down is 16.103. That goes from 10.9. That goes for 10.9 and 10.10. So yeah, all the way back to Mavericks. Anything older than that, all bets are off.
Bill, if you need an older one, if you need an older one, I may have some very old copies. I keep everything.
Yeah.
Okay. It might
The problem is,
it might
yeah,
be a
there's probably a
10.7
version for
something
older
like that.
ones, but it may not be compatible with the server. It may or may not
Okay.
work well, but you can try.
And
Yeah, I'm trying
Bill,
to do this on machine with Lion.
Oh, that may be pushing it, but Bill, I did just look you up, and it looked you don't have an account. So if you had an account a long time ago, it expired.
Okay, very long time ago.
Yeah.
So just
create a new account.
Okay.
if you fish around on the web and go to the company that makes this is called Open Text. So if you Google Open Text First Class Download, you'll probably find a link to their download, and they may have older versions there, and it'll tell you what version works on that Lion.
And we really have tried to give you a computer that will run a more recent operating system, and if you could just convince your wife we have one more device to take home.
Oh, no. There's the one running Catalina right now, we're keeping very bare.
Okay.
So, and right now I'm on a Linux box with 2 monitors, so.
Well, with a Linux box, you could log in with a Linux box to our server.
I think they might very well have a Linux client. The interesting thing, and not so good for us, is OpenText recently announced that they're not going to make the macOS server anymore. So we're going to have to move the server to either a Windows or a Linux box.
Linux, not Windows, please.
And they announced that a while ago, and they recently, within the last month or two, actually made that move. So new server software was released, and we can't use it. So there's a matching new macOS client, and we're not upgrading to that as admins. You as end users may try that. I'm not sure if there'll be any issues, and if there is, there's nothing we can do about it because we can't upgrade the server. They said
I'll
it'll
look
probably be
into
okay
the-
for quite some time.
Yeah, I'll look into the BBS software on the Linux side then. Trying
Yeah,
to
since
keep
they make a
Catalina-
Linux server, I'm sure they make a client.
Okay.
The only thing you would
There's
get
also
on
a
our
web
webpage,
interface that you can use. I've used that on a Windows machine from work, and it's not quite as full featured as the client, but it works in a pinch.
so Bill, the only thing that we have on our webpage is the server itself is built in to the installer. So you would need to, on the Linux client, you would need to punch in the server address.
Okay.
Which is F as in first, C as in class, fc.dvmug.org.
Okay. The other question, if I could do one more. My subscription for Kaspersky auto renewed, and I want to go ahead and put that on Catalina. Question is,
Don't.
I keep hearing people say don't, people who don't like this software program, but give me good reasons.
Number one, it slows the machine down. Number two, all of these things are out of date by the date that they're published. And they are there to discover new things, but they don't work. But they really interfere with the operation of the machine. And moreover, there are no viruses for the Macintosh in the wild. There's malware, but malware bytes, which is free and runs only intermittently when you wish to run it, is available. That doesn't interfere with the operation of the machine. And the last point that I would make, and maybe John and Ann could embellish on my previous points, is that Kaspersky, of all places, would be the last place I would look, given the fact that they are in the former Soviet Union, in Russia, which is, I don't trust them.
They have better experts for malicious activity than our own government does.
I'm sure they do, since they invented it.
But Bill,
The Chinese invented that.
The only reason I can see for using that as an enterprise use, where you're concerned about lawsuits, so that you can say, yes, I've taken every precaution that I can, just for potential liability. But unless you're in that situation, there's really no need to use that. Use malware bytes is about all you need.
And that's on there now.
Incidentally, you had asked 2 or 3 meetings ago about the Sophos software at the senior center, which is moot now. They're closed. But you may have read recently that Sophos themselves was harboring malware.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So,
So with the free one, Avastat, was harvesting user information and selling it. That's how they were making money. Bill, I checked. There's no Linux client for First Class.
Okay.
Windows and Mac only.
I have some old versions of First Class if you need one, Bill.
Yeah. I may try that.
Okay, let me know.
Or I might just stick to the website. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
I'm muting.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions before we get going?
Peter.
Yeah, Peter.
I have a quick one on the iPad iOS. How do you extend the time before, it tends to sleep frequently, and I'm not sure where to go to stretch out the session before sleeping happens.
In settings, at the top of settings, you can search for things. Search for, I believe it's auto lock or display, and then in display there's auto lock and how many minutes till it locks.
I'm looking right now.
You can set the iPad to never lock. You can't do that on the phone, I don't think. Maximum you go on the phone is 5 minutes.
Yeah, it is under display and brightness.
Right.
And you have your choice of 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or never. I personally, I don't want never, but I've selected 15 minutes, but I agree with you. That's too short a duration. I wish they could set it for 30 or 60 minutes, but unfortunately they don't.
This is for iPad now?
Right.
Yeah.
The theory is your iPad doesn't leave your house, so you can have it never lock. Phones, they won't let you have more than 5 minutes because they know it goes out in the wild and you leave your phone sitting on the table somewhere. They want that sucker locked in 5 minutes.
It does
It's a
have
good idea.
it does have
There's
never.
The phone has a never.
It
Yes.
does?
Yes. But
Really?
it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, never. There's no 15.
That's something new.
Okay, so recap exactly how you change that timing on the iPad then. What do you do? You go to settings?
Settings, display.
Okay.
Display and brightness on the new
Oops, you
iOS.
can't see
And
that.
brightness.
You'll see auto lock.
Then auto
Oh
lock.
my God, they did add never.
Yeah.
That didn't used to be the
I
case.
never knew that.
No, it used to be 5 minutes max. Well, that's not a security improvement.
Isn't that Never Land?
Can you
God.
can you use Apple Pay when it's on never? That's not secure.
If you want to probably.
Setting your phone to never auto lock is potentially a really bad idea.
Bad idea.
If you leave your phone anywhere and it's not locked, somebody could just pick it up and do their business. All the things that you log into without a password that are auto-saved, they could just be checking your email, forwarding stuff, logging into God knows what. Bad idea.
Is that a kitty Don has there?
Yes, that's a very affectionate kitty he has. Ken unmuted himself.
Yeah.
Unmute Ken. When you play the guitar, it switches to you. There you go.
You can just mute yourself.
Okay. Any other questions before we get to the keynote? All good?
I have a question for Don. Are we going to resume having a general meeting once a month?
We have a board meeting tomorrow.
We'll discuss it at the board meeting tomorrow.
You're welcome to come to the board meeting.
Okay.
6 o'clock. We're going to move it up to 6 p.m.
How do people feel about that? Are you up for the general meetings?
I don't think it's going to be allowed for quite some time. That comes under larger meetings to have 30 people in one room for 2 hours. That's probably not going to be allowed for. We got 2 more dates for the general meeting, and then we have the picnic and the film fest, which probably aren't going to happen. It'll be September before it's even allowed. Right?
By whom?
Yeah.
Allowed by whom?
The
county ordered.
I'm not talking about live. I'm talking about virtual general meetings.
Oh,
I
third
think
Wednesday.
we will try and have a virtual general meeting. I think Peter is going to discuss tomorrow a plan to port over his lesson plan that he was banking on a live audience into a virtual presentation. But we will discuss that at the board meeting tomorrow and come up with an action plan.
I love these.
Right, Peter?
Right, yes.
Okay, so very good. So I will turn on my screen sharing now and move along with the keynote.
Okay, co-hosts, mute the rest of the people.
Yeah. Now, John, since we're not embedding the video in this, it is going to open up in Safari. So
Rick shouldn't be muted because he's a co-host.
No, I'm not muted.
Oh, you were for a second. No, you should
You
be
were.
okay.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Sharing up with
Oh.
the. Apple's 13-inch MacBook Pro, and I misspelled it, sorry. So Gary's going to talk about the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and I'm going to take a second so that if you wish, you can take a screenshot of this URL if you want to see it later in your own home. But if you don't know how to take a screenshot, you can hold down Shift-Command-4 and then just draw a little box right around what you want to save, and that'll go into your clipboard, and then you can open that up later. So here we go. I think. Yep.
You turned on sound share?
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com.
We're good.
Look at Apple's new 13-inch MacBook Pro.
We don't see the video though.
You don't?
I see gray screen.
MacMost is brought to you thanks to a
No.
great group of more than
Stop. I hear sound, but I see gray screen. No Safari, no YouTube.
more about the Patreon campaign.
Okay, it says sharing is paused.
Somehow it's not sharing the Safari screen. You probably have to pick which screen it's going to share.
I see.
Instead of
I have
Keynote,
to
share
share.
Safari.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Gary with
A new share
MacMost.com.
coming up.
Let's take a look at Apple's new
White screen, no video.
No.
Okay, wait, now it's
Brought
coming.
to you thanks to a great group of more than 600 supporters.
Gonna do it again.
MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign. Join us and get exclusive content and course discounts. So
Black
last year, Apple
screen.
came out with a 16-inch
Not happening.
MacBook Pro to be their larger model.
No
This year, they
video,
already
sound only.
new MacBook Air. So with today's announcement of a new 13-inch MacBook Pro, it means the
Bear
entire
with me.
MacBook Pro line is now less than 6 months old. So what's in this new 13-inch
Come on,
model?
quit.
First and
Well, that's
I think,
not-
don't you have to pick which application is going to go full screen?
I think so, but I thought I did. Let's
So
bring it
far
up.
we've had white, gray, and black.
Okay, we're gonna try it again. And I'm gonna.
Hi, this is Gary with MacBook.
I'm gonna stop it, and I'm gonna go to full screen, and I guess I'm not. And I'm going to go to. Share the screen and go here. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Full screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Let's take a look at
Yay.
Apple 13-inch MacBook Pro. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 600 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign. Join us and get exclusive content and course discounts. So last year, Apple came out with a new 16-inch MacBook Pro to be their larger model. This year, they already came out with a whole new MacBook Air. So with today's announcement of a new 13-inch MacBook Pro, it means the entire MacBook Pro line is now less than 6 months old. So what's in this new 13-inch model? First and foremost is the new keyboard. So with the 16-inch MacBook Pro introduced a new Magic Keyboard that goes back to the old scissor mechanism and hopefully doesn't turn out to have any of the problems that the butterfly keyboard on several years worth of MacBook Pros had. The MacBook Air also adopted this new keyboard, and now the 13-inch MacBook Pro has it, meaning that the butterfly keyboard is now dead. It's not available on any of the currently sold MacBooks. In addition, the keyboard has a physical escape key next to a touch bar and Touch ID on the other end. Let's take a look at the specs here. So the 13-inch MacBook Pro primarily is two different models. There's the model that starts at $1299 and the model that starts at $1799. The specs here break it out into 4 different models, but essentially the first 2 and the last 2 are very similar. So here's the main difference between the 2 models. The first has a 8th generation Intel Core i5 which is basically the same as the previous generation of MacBook Pros. So no new processor in these. The higher end one, however, has new 10th generation Intel i5 or i7 processors. So a big boost there for the higher end as long as you're willing to spend $1,800 to start. Now let's continue by looking at storage and memory. So a big change here is basically the storage goes up one level for everything at the same price. So previously the MacBook Pro started at 128 gigabyte hard drives, and the higher end model starts at 512. So you're basically going up a whole step, doubling the drive space for the same price. So it pretty much ends up as a huge price cut. Because if you wanted to get something decent, you'd want to get the 256 gigs anyway. So here you don't have to pay for it. And the same thing if you're going higher end. You probably want to get the 512 gig anyway. And here you get it at the base price without having to pay more for it. Now note, you can go all the way up to a 4 terabyte SSD now inside. Now memory starts off at 8 gigs for the lower end model, which is the same as before. But the higher end model starts at 16 gigs, which is kind of where you want it. And also for the first time now, you can go to 32 gigs on the 13-inch MacBook Pro. Before you had to get the larger model to go to that much memory. Now, no surprise here, but the graphics are integrated graphics. A lot of people are saying, well, it's the same integrated graphics, but it's actually not. It's now Intel Iris Plus graphics, which is a considerable upgrade over the previous integrated graphics. It's still integrated. It still doesn't have a dedicated GPU, but it is a big performance boost. So if your goal is to use Final Cut Pro on this machine, it actually works pretty well with the Intel Iris Plus graphics. I'm sure though, if you're doing 3D modeling or using some other high-end video editor, you're probably better off getting the 16-inch MacBook Pro with its own GPU. Now, a lot of the other things stay the same for this model as it did for the previous model. So the lower end still has 2 Thunderbolt ports like the MacBook Air, while the higher end has 4. The display is exactly the same, so it's the same display basically in the same case. The Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and the camera are all the same, and the audio and battery performance are the same as well. Now, on another video note, the lower end model actually only supports up to a 5K external screen, so it won't drive the new super expensive Apple display, which is 6K. But the higher end will. It's kind of interesting that you can get the MacBook Air and drive a 6K display, but not with the lower end 13-inch MacBook Pro. The size and weight are very similar to the MacBook Air. It's a little bit heavier. The MacBook Air is only 2.8 pounds. And the width and depth are the same, but of course the height of the MacBook Air changes. It goes from a thin end to a thick end, whereas the height is a pretty consistent 0.61 inches for the MacBook Pro. So let's take a look at the prices. Here you can see those same 4 models shown in the tech specs. And you can go as low as $1299 for the base level 13-inch. Go up just $200 more and you double the hard drive space. The higher end one starts at $1,800.
We lost Gary's video. I mean, his sound.
There, you can pay $300
It's
for
back.
the processor, still the previous generation though. You can also pay $100 more to double your memory, and you can pay $200 more to go to a 1 terabyte drive. $600 more will get you a 2 terabyte drive. With the higher end model and the larger hard drive, you're at $2,000 already. You can boost the processor for $200. You can go with the new 32 gigs of RAM for $400 more, and you can go all the way up to a 4 terabyte drive for $1,000. So if you really wanted all those things, you could max out at $3,600 for 4 terabytes of storage, 32 gigs of RAM, and the top level processor. So where does this 13-inch MacBook Pro fit with the 16-inch MacBook Pro on the one end and the MacBook Air on the other end? Well, clearly, if you are looking for a bargain and the lightest possible MacBook, then the MacBook Air is still the best choice. If on the other hand, you want something that's portable but has tons of power, then the 16-inch is the best deal. But if you really need something in the middle, you just can't go to the 16-inch size. You want it to still be kind of small and lightweight, but you need to build some power into it, then that's where the 13-inch MacBook Pro fits in. So in this case, the bargains are at either end. The high-end bargain is the 16-inch MacBook Pro. The low-end bargain is the MacBook Air. But if you're not looking for a bargain, if you don't want to compromise, you want lightweight and power, then that's the 13-inch MacBook Pro. I publish new tutorials every weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Then hit the little bell icon to get notifications for each new tutorial.
Okay. Back we go. Turn on. Come on. Missed my video. Hello. Okay. Very good. So it looks like a nice piece of equipment, and all it takes is money. You get all the goodies. Anybody got any questions about any of that that you just saw?
Okay to buy a Mac laptop now. They all have decent keyboards. The last few
Send me
years,
the
that was
money.
not the case.
Okay, moving right along, and
Rick,
pursuant to, yes?
but why would you buy even the new MacBook Air, given this the dollar difference is not going to be very big, is it? I didn't try specking them out yet, but there's what, maybe $300 difference or what?
Well, if you're just surfing the web and doing your email and you're not a heavy duty user and you want the lightest, cheapest thing, MacBook Air
That's
is
the
the
Air,
one.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, hang on. Oh, it stopped. Okay. That was my dear aunt in Indiana who calls every day, and I had told her not to call. But why? See if I got most of your question was, why would anybody want the MacBook Air now that the MacBook Pro, the 13-inch MacBook Pro is out? Remember, he said that the MacBook Air does drive a 6K monitor. The new MacBook Pro does, the low-end ones do not.
Just kind of weird. You think it would be the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you not want this beautiful thing?
They're not that much different in size and weight anymore.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is they're getting closer in weight. And I mean, it seems like we have too many choices. They made it trickier by upgrading the Air first and then putting out the 13-inch Pros. It's very tempting to go a little bit more money and get a better machine. And if you can afford it, I guess that's the thing to do.
Yeah. I think that's it. Mainly, it's pocketbook controls.
Well, we have, some people have almost nothing on their computer. I've only done a couple of jobs since we've been quarantined, and at the DVMUG office, 3 different people had their computers die, hard drives die. So they got no email, no computer, no, they can't do online shopping. So I said, drop it off, bring it to the office. I'll take it out of your trunk, I'll go in, fix it. So it turned out 2 of these were 21-inch iMacs with their glued together screens, and the hard drives had failed. They have 2.5-inch laptop 5,400 RPM drives, which are slow anyway.
Yeah.
Both of them were failed. So one of them only had 40 gigs of data on it and a 1 terabyte drive. Well, I was able to buy a 128 gig SSD with the toolkit and the glue strips and the whole deal delivered for $55. Put it in there and it was like a brand new machine. It was like boots in 15 seconds instead of 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So some people don't need a lot of space.
You had a pretty heavy
128 works.
customer
I
there,
would
I'm
never
sure.
buy a machine with 128. I have a couple and they're tight, you know, but some people don't have much stuff, and it worked. Both of those were huge. The other one had 340 gigs of data, and so we got a 500 gig drive in that one. Unfortunately, the main problem was I ordered the SSDs from Amazon Prime, thinking they were going to be 2 days. It was 10 days.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had to order a bunch of medical equipment, though, this last week. And it did come in 2 days. And one grab bar I ordered Sunday night was here yesterday. So I've had to install a bunch of grab bars in the bathrooms and stuff. So they're very good about that. But I ordered a pair of trousers from Amazon, and that was back in April, and they still aren't here yet, but they say they'll be here tomorrow. So, of course, you can only see me in my shirt, so you can't see me in my tighty whities. I have pants on, believe me.
So I was able to order, since I just did one of those. I ordered the kit with the roller and the suction cups and the screwdriver and everything from OWC as a kit. The kit, if you just buy the kit, was $30 delivered. If you just want, so I already have the kit, I just need a new set of strips. That was $20 just for the little stupid plastic strips.
Yeah.
But you got to have them. You got to have them.
That kit makes it easy to do that
It's
job.
not, taking it apart is easier than anything. It's a little mini pizza roller. You just go zip, zip, zip. 5 minutes, the thing's out of there. The hardest part is
for folks considering a new iMac, and I saw your hand go, Ken, you'll be next. For folks considering a new iMac, the 21-inch has some real deficiencies. First one is that hard drive that's very slow that John talked about. The second thing is that you're unable to upgrade the RAM yourself. Whereas on the 27-inch, there's a convenient little window on the back. You can upgrade the RAM, and it comes with you have your choice of a solid state drive straight up or the Fusion drive. I don't think that the 27-inch comes with a straight hard drive anymore, does it, John or Ann?
I think that Fusion is standard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, you can order just a solid state, but like on my 27-inch, I have a Fusion in there.
John, were
Ken,
those two?
Ken had his hand up first, John.
If anybody's using any regular hard drives, there's been a change. If anybody's using regular hard drives, there's been a change in how they're manufacturing them now. There's a new technology called SMR, shingled magnetic recording, which is much slower than CMR, which is conventional magnetic recording. And the manufacturers are getting a little quiet about it. You can't get a straight answer out of them. I just ordered a couple 4 terabyte for Time Machine, Western Digital Blue, because that's one with the old recording. And what they're doing is they're changing how they record so they can get more on less space and cut the cost down. So you have to be careful in what you get if you're using it as a regular drive, because it's going to be much slower. And you might, there's a lot of material on it if you want to just research it on SMR and CMR recording on the hard drives.
That's good to know. Thanks. John, you had a question. John, on
just a quick question on that Fusion drive. I just put in a SSD, and the thing is great. But what's the advantage of the Fusion drive over just a straight SSD?
None.
None.
Well, the Fusion drive has 2 parts. I took a 27-inch apart that was broken just to see. It has a spinning hard drive, and then it has a blade SSD, just like the laptops, and they use both. And there's Apple Magic in there that puts your operating system and your most used files on the SSD, so it appears fast, but then you can put the bulk of your stuff that takes all the space on the spinning drive. They don't tell you how this works. It's just PFM, if you know what that is.
Yeah, and until you have to recover your data, and then it's
exactly. You absolutely better have a backup.
So the thing is, it was a stopgap measure for the price point. A Fusion drive enables you to ship a 1 terabyte drive for a reasonable cost because the SSD portion is smaller. Now that SSDs are starting to get a little cheaper, the Fusion drive will be a thing of the past.
Well, you really don't need a Fusion drive for a terabyte of stuff because you're not accessing that much stuff. That actually, I looked around, and the Blade Fusion drive, the Blade portion SSD of the Fusion drive is a standard Apple Blade SSD, which can be upgraded. So if it came with a 128, you can actually upgrade that to a 256 portion, and the Apple Magic. You have to reformat it in terminal, but it will fuse those together and make it a bigger SSD portion. So it's not, you know, terrible, but it's a way to save money and get the speed. Ken has his hand up, I see. Unmute Ken. Somebody unmute Ken, or Ken unmute yourself.
Scott Clark has his hand up.
I just was wondering.
And Dave Epley.
Very simple question. Has anybody heard any rumors about when the Walnut Creek Apple Store is going to reopen?
Probably whenever the order in Contra Costa County lets them.
Okay.
Ken, we can't hear you. Ken Marks or Ken Cooper, we can't hear you.
Ken, you're muted.
How do
There
I
you go.
see? Let me see.
You're okay, Ken.
We can hear you
now.
All right, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. My somehow on my new iMac, I uncoupled my Fusion drive.
Oh no!
Into two separate back into separate drives. But I took it over before the shutdown. I took it back. I made an appointment at the Mac store, and they somehow while I was sitting there, they ran some stuff and put it back together into one drive. And I had backed it up already.
If you Google it, it tells you how to do that in terminal. You must have done something pretty drastic.
I think it was when I was trying to install. I think that's when I was trying to install Catalina on an external drive. Somehow it got into that drive and stuff. And,
if you have Mojave or Catalina, it's easy to put it back together.
Well, yeah, they did it right there for me and got it back to it. And then I had done a backup, so I restored back from the backup, and everything was back and running just fine. And since then, I've been able to. I wanted to try out Catalina first, and the way I did it is I cloned the internal drive Mojave, and then I booted up off of that Mojave clone, and then I updated that, and Catalina works fine with everything. So that now I copied it back over to the main drive now. So I'm running Catalina now, and I do have a backup drive of Mojave in case I want to run Mojave.
So yeah, I have a laptop that has a 256 SSD, and then it's split into two partitions, one for Catalina and one for Mojave. And it works. And the Catalina one, when you boot into Mojave, you see both the data and the system disk. So you actually see 3 disks, which Rick was going to talk about that, I think, coming up. Why do I see
Isn't that weird?
2
Because
disks in
formatting,
disk utility? Why do I see 2 disks in Catalina?
Right.
Yeah.
That's coming up next, folks.
How can you run that without, because of the formatting is different on the Catalina drives. The format is different than on the
by default in Mojave, if you install and you have an SSD, it converts it to AFS, whatever it is, the format. It just does that whether you like it or not.
So you have AFS and the new H8, the other one on the same hard drive.
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We still have other questions, and that is next on the agenda. So let's hang off. Let's put a pin in that one for a moment, because Dave Epley and Scott Clark have their hands up. And Scott, you have the floor.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, and I'm trying to unmute him, but it's not working. Somebody
Here
else
I am.
muted him.
I already had my question answered. It was about the stores.
Right.
I'm good.
Oh, okay. So then Dave.
Yeah, I'm kind of, my comment and question kind of leads into where you're going anyway, but I have the 2 terabyte Fusion drive, and I tried to back it up the other day with Super Duper, and Super Duper says, nope, with the 0.3 version of Catalina, you've got to change your external drive to APFS.
Yeah,
because it was the old guild partition.
I saw that
extended.
recently too.
Yeah, so he said, do you want us to try to do it? And I said, well, yeah, what the hell? And so it punched around a while, and it came back and said, nope, sorry, it didn't work. You must have a time machine on your external drive as well, which I do. So then I went out and reformatted my entire external drive.
Yeah.
And then the Time Machine won't back up on a damn
Oh,
APFS.
Time Machine won't back
No.
up to that
No,
format.
they don't warn you.
Oh.
But if you dig around a little bit, the first thing you find out about that is tough luck. You can't back up.
Were you trying to put Time Machine and Super Duper onto the same drive?
Well, I had a 6 terabyte drive.
Oh, you had a partition.
And I had partitioned it so that
you
both
can do
Super
that.
Duper and
You
Time
should be able to
Machine
make. You should be able to make each partition, Time Machine partition, the
question.
old format. And,
Well, that's true, John. But that is what the Super Duper upgrade tried to do. It tried to partition just the segment, or to
okay. So
convert
did you
just
manually
into APFS just the partition that I was using for that, and it did do that. When I looked at it, I saw that they had repartitioned just that one or reformatted just that one partition, but it still didn't work for whatever
Dave,
reason.
I have a question for you though. You
Yeah,
know,
I got one
hard
too.
drives are sold with a mean time between failures classification, and hard drives aren't going to maybe fail. They will always fail. They're a mechanical device. They're the
Yeah.
weak link in your whole computer system.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do since you've got both of your backups on one drive? What are you going to do when that drive fails?
lose them both?
What?
Right.
You're gonna
So
Well,
when
lose
your
yeah,
drive,
you-
when
you
your
lose them
physical
both,
drive
but-
fails, you'd lose both your backups.
You're going to lose both
Hard
backups.
drives are cheap.
Well, I understand the temptation with a 6 terabyte drive, but you know,
So-
it
so-
really isn't a good idea to.
No, I can see that, and I went to OWC to see if I could get a 1 gig SSD, but they're still they're still pretty pricey. That's about
You don't
$300
need an
Yeah.
Don't do that. You don't need an SSD for a backup. It's a complete waste.
No.
Your backup does not need to be fast. That's what
Yeah.
large spinning
Yeah,
hard
just
drives are
get
for.
That's like using a Ferrari to go to the grocery store.
With a spinning
won't-
hard drive and no need
$50
for another
bucks.
power supply, just is a good form factor.
2 terabytes on Amazon, $70.
Okay, so all right. Well, anyway,
And
it's
order it now so it gets here before August.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got it. Leo has the acronym, if you ever listen to it, 3-2-1. Three copies, 2 different media, 1 off-site. 1 copy on your computer, 2 external backups on different media. And one of them you could take off-site. That would actually make it a 4th one. But putting both hard drives, both backups on 1 hard drive, you essentially have, that hard drive dies, you will have no backups.
Well, in my defense, I set that up back whenever you couldn't count on being able to boot from Time Machine, but that's not been the case for a long time now.
Right.
I run my Time Machine for 2 years, archive it, and then put a new one in.
Yeah.
The drive will usually last for 2 years, and if the current one goes, I still have the previous one.
I mean, that's a big portion
Yeah,
of
when
what's
I buy a
failed.
when I buy a new machine, I always buy a new backup drive. I never use an old backup drive with a new machine. I'll use it for other purposes.
These
I
machines that are
built.
5 years old, these 21-inch iMacs, had 2 of them fail this month. I found out they weren't dead, but they were exhibiting problems. And there's a free program you can run called Drive DX. Just Google it. You can use a trial version for 2 weeks. You only need to run it once, and SATA drives have a health monitor built in. It will run all the tests on it, and it will show you all the different things and what parameters are getting weak. And they add up a score, and they'll say this drive shows signs of failing in the future because these issues have come up. Multiple bad blocks trying to be moved. This is a pending failure. that's a sign to replace that sucker before it dies on you. So Drive DX, you can run it on your Mac and find out the state of your health.
Oh, cool.
Drive DX, just Google it. It's very useful.
There's also, I'll post it, but there's also, I think it's an extension that you can put in that'll allow it to work on external drives.
Yeah, there's a lot of these different utilities around like this. Tech Tool has a SATA checker built in, essentially checks the same parameters on the drive.
Yeah.
Howard is trying to speak and he's muted. Howard, unmute. Howard, you are muted. There you go.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Was that DF or DX?
D is in dog, X is in X-ray.
Thank you.
Drive DX.
And that will evaluate external drives as well as internal?
No, as Ken said, you have to, maybe.
Yeah, if you add an extension. I'll post the link to the extension.
What I do with external drives,
Installed it so to check some external drives.
what I do with external drives is I take them out of the case and put them in a Mac Pro tower at the office and then run it there, and that gives me the full test. It's a pain in the butt, but
We don't have that ability though. How do we?
yeah, I know.
Okay, moving right along. Let me bring up Keynote again. And let's see, hide that. Go to share screen, bring up Keynote. Are you able to see that in this week's e-blast? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Last Sunday, if you guys were looking at the e-blast, you saw that there's been some concern about Safari not being compatible, supposedly, with some financial sites. And a lot of people are concerned who've run into that issue, but it is probably not your fault, but their fault. Some institutions haven't kept up with the times, and it would be good for you to read the e-blast article on that subject. You can do a workaround by going to Safari Preferences and Privacy and uncheck Prevent Cross-Site Tracking. Load the site and then try to carry on your business, but when you're done, be sure to return to Safari Preferences and turn back on Prevent Cross-Site Tracking. Now, we're going to have this keynote up on the bulletin board for you afterwards, so you'll be able to consult this. It's not something I've heard about. I only learned about it in the e-blast that John put out. So I'm not sure any of you have run into this. I know my bank doesn't give me any trouble on this, and I bank with the Mechanics Bank. And
what I suggest is something doesn't work in a browser like a bank, just use a different browser, Google Chrome or Firefox. It'll probably work, and that's easy fix for most things.
I agree. Yeah. And Chrome is probably more likely than any of them to just work. Okay, so we talked earlier, and we were talking about why do I have 2 data volumes after installing Catalina? You'll notice on the graphic that you'll see Macintosh HD and Macintosh HD. This is absolutely normal. This is a correct installation. It's called a volume group. It's a read-only scheme on the first one. It's kind of like, I guess maybe like the Fusion drive where the system and stuff would be kept on that. And the second would be where your home folder and all writable data is kept. if you find another data disk, and if it just says data on it, it may not be a good installation, at which point you should consider backing up your Mac, erasing the drive, and reinstalling Catalina, and then restore your data from your backup drive. Sounds scary, but it's really not that hard. It just takes some time. And that's something I think we all have right now. So,
Rick?
yeah.
John, I just ran this DX on my computer and it came up with everything's 100% okay, with the exception of 2 items, temperature sensor 1 and temperature sensor 2.
I wouldn't worry about it. Look at the top. The top gives you an overall rating. It says failing yellow, red, green. Does it say okay?
No, it's okay. I just was wondering if that's something I ought to address.
It's running hot right now for some reason.
Yeah, it is. I can hear the fan, and that's rare.
Let's hold the questions till Rick finishes his keynote.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a correct installation, and you know, back up your Mac, erase it, reinstall Catalina, and then do a restore from your backup. We have another video to watch on Spotlight and what you need to know about it. And Gary's got another video. This is a 13-minute video, 13 minutes, 30 seconds. I'll leave this up for a second if you want to take a screenshot. But again, the whole keynote is going to be posted on the BBS. Okay, so without any further ado, here we go.
And co-host, mute everybody else.
Okay, and I'm going to do, let's hope this works here. Can everybody see the picture of Gary?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yep,
I'm gonna run.
Hi, this is Gary with MacBook.com.
It's
Today I'm
working.
going to show you a whole bunch of useful Mac Spotlight tips. MacMost is supported by more than 600 viewers just like you. Go to macmost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So if you really want to master how to use your Mac, then you need to learn certain tools. And one of those is using Spotlight. Now, you may already use Spotlight for some simple file searching, but you can do so much more with it. Now, of course, you can launch Spotlight by clicking on the magnifying glass here in the menu bar. But most people do it by using the keyboard shortcut Command Space. One of the most popular uses for Spotlight is to launch apps. And you can simply hit Command Space and then start typing the name of the app and hit return. So for instance, I can start typing Pages. I don't have to complete the word for it to come up as the top hit, and then press return for it to launch Pages. But some apps have really long names. If an app has multiple words in the name, you don't have to start spelling it out. You can just use its initials. So for instance, Font Book, I can type FB, and you can see it comes up with Font Book. It even works if there's no space. For instance, GB will come up with GarageBand. And you could do longer things as well. For instance, if I type AI2, it finds Adobe Illustrator 2020. Now, if you're using Spotlight to search for files, there are a lot of ways that you can specify exactly what you want. So for instance, I can type just some text there, and it will come up with things like spreadsheets, documents, contacts, all this stuff here. But if I want to specify, I just want files with that in the name, I could type name : and then the name. No need for a space there. Now I'm only going to get results that have that in the name. So you can see a few applications, some spreadsheets, documents, but they all have the word test in the name. You could also use kind to specify a file kind. You could use things like Pages, for instance, only find Pages documents. So now I'm looking for only Pages documents with the word test in the name. And then you could use things like created to actually specify a range of dates. And then do 1/1/2020, you can see there were no Pages documents created on that particular date. I could do dash and then 4/1/2020, and it will find the Pages documents created in that range of dates. You could also use modified as well. You can also modify using and, or not. The key is you need to use capital letters. So here I have name includes test, kind is pages, or, and notice the capital letters, kind is numbers. And now I'm going to get results that are spreadsheets and pages documents. If I were to then use not and then name and taxes, you could see it would exclude those files with that in the name. So you can keep stringing things along here to specify exactly what you want. Now, when you have a bunch of files like this, you can use the arrow keys to go through them. So I can do arrow down to jump to the different files. And I can see a preview on the right. If I hold the command key down, I could see down here a path to where that file is located. That only appears if you're holding the command key down. Now, if you want to jump to that file, you can do command and then return or command R. Either one will open up a Finder window and take you to that document. If you want to get information on this file, you can do command I, and that will just go right to the info window in the Finder without taking you to the document itself. Now, notice how long this list can be sometimes, but it's broken into categories. So there's documents, contacts, other, etc. You can use the arrow keys to move up and down one item at a time, but command and up and down arrows will move to the first item in each section. So I can quickly jump down. So say if I wanted to find folders, I could go and jump down using command and the down arrow to jump to the folder section. And when you're looking at folders like this, you can hit the tab key and the selection moves over to the right. So now you can go through the items found inside that folder, and you could use things like, say, command R, command return to jump to that item. Now, if you go all the way to the bottom, and at the very bottom of the list is show all in Finder, and hitting return there will then bring up a Finder search with that search term already there. Now, you should be able to use command option and then return to do the same thing, but it doesn't always work. When I use it, I often just get a new Finder search, and it doesn't carry the results from Spotlight into it. So if you have something complex like this, you can click on Show All in Finder, and then you can see it jumps to it and has all of that information filled in here in the Finder search field. And you can see all of those same things work there as well as Spotlight. Now, you can also use Spotlight to search the web. Normally, you would launch the browser, you would type something in the field at the top, and then hit return. But you could just type what you want here and do command B instead of return, and it instantly does the search in your default browser. And it's the same amount of keystrokes as doing it in the browser itself. There are other useful keyboard shortcuts you can use in Spotlight as well. For instance, you can use the right arrow. I can start typing a file name here, and you can see it suggests something right there. If I use the right arrow, it actually accepts the suggestion and moves the cursor over. If you want to delete what's in there, you have two options. One is to use the escape key. The other is command delete. Now you can search for events in the calendar by just typing something that's part of a calendar event name. So here I come up with a lot of results. If I use command and down arrow, I'll eventually get to events reminders and see that there. If I just want to see the events, I can do kind events, and then that's all I'll get as part of the results. If I want to get a dictionary definition, I can type any word, but I'm going to get lots of results that are not definitions. So it may or may not be the first thing that appears there. If I just want to see the definition, I could type the word define. I don't need a colon here, and I could just use the word after it. Now, if you just type a word, it'll bring up the definition, and you can move the selection over that definition and hit return to launch the dictionary app. Or you can use command and then the D key to launch the dictionary app for that word. Now, in older versions of macOS, you could use command L to bring up dictionary definitions, but it seems like in Catalina, that's command D. Now, you've probably been told over and over again that you can do simple calculations using Spotlight, like 1 + 1, and you can get the result. But in fact, saying that Spotlight does simple calculations doesn't do it justice, because you can actually do very complex calculations, much more than what you can do in the calculator. So for instance, I can use parentheses and do something like this to get complex results that are hard to do in the calculator app. Now, another keyboard shortcut you could use here is command C, and that copies the results of a calculation. And now in another app, if you do command V, it'll paste those results. You could do that with files as well to get the file path. So I can type in a file name here. I can then arrow down to find the exact item I want. So let's say this document here. If I do command C at that point, then I switch over to the other app and do Command V, you can see it pastes in the path. You could also paste into a Finder window, and it will put a copy of that file there. Now, you may know that you could type weather and get your local weather, but if you say weather and then in, you can type in any city name and get the weather there. You could also use weather colon and then a name to get the weather. Of course, you can use Spotlight to do calculations based on currency exchange rates and conversion. So for instance, if I wanted to do, $50, and it would translate that automatically to euros by default, but I can do, say, in yen and get yen. I can do 4 meters and it assumes yards. I could do something like 50 mph and it will give me kilometers per hour. So you can convert just about anything in Spotlight. You can get flight information by just typing in the official flight code. So here's the current status of this flight. Now to see sports results, all you got to do is type something like, say, baseball and scores, and it will come up with that information. Or you could type schedule and get that information as well. Of course, right now, that's one and the same as all the games are postponed. To see movie times, you can just type movie times and you'll come up with a list of movies. You can also say movie times in the name of the movie. Of course, right now, there's no real information out there since the movie theaters are closed. Now, here are some things that allow you to customize Spotlight itself. One thing is you don't have to go with the default location and size of the Spotlight window. I could grab the top here, just above the text, wherever I want, and drag it around. So I could reposition that wherever I want, move it to another screen if I've got multiple screens. I could also grab the bottom and drag it down to enlarge the space. If I want things to return to the default location and size, all I need to do is click and hold the magnifying glass. After 2 or 3 seconds, it snaps back into place. Now, if you want to change what appears in Spotlight, you can go to the Apple menu and then System Preferences, and then go to Spotlight. And here you'll see a list of things that could appear as results. You could turn anything off. So for instance, if you don't want to see your browser bookmarks in Spotlight, you can turn that off. Or you don't want to see fonts there, you can turn that off as well. Now you can also switch over to privacy, which is actually how you exclude file locations from Spotlight. So you can hit the plus button here. So you don't want it to look in when looking for files, you can add it here. Add as many as you want to the list. So for instance, I'll add my movies folder here, and you can see it adds it to the list. I can select it, hit the minus button to remove it. One main reason you may want to include things here has nothing to do with privacy, but it could be that there's a certain location in your hard drive that's filled with files that flood your Spotlight search results. So for instance, you had an old project, it had thousands of files in it, there's all sorts of text in there, and those files are always showing up in your results. You could simply add that folder here, and you'll no longer see those when you do searches, so your searches will be more relevant. So here are some more tips. If you just want to look for something you know is a folder, you can do kind folder, and then when you search, it's all you're going to get as your results. Just like you can launch apps, you can actually go to System Preferences using Spotlight. So just type what the preference pane is called. So for instance, if I want to do dock preferences, I can type dock, and I'll see a bunch of different results. But one of those items there, in fact, the first one in this case, is dock System Preferences. So if I hit return now, it goes right to that in System Preferences. You can also use folder paths in Spotlight. For instance, if I wanted to go to my System Library folder, I could do / and then library like that. And then that'll come up as a top hit. I hit return, and that's where I'm at the System Library folder. Now, if I wanted to go to my local library folder, I can do / library, and that brings me to my local folder. Using this little special symbol here on US keyboards, it's found just above the tab key. You can specify you want your home folder. It's the same thing as typing users / and then your username. You get to the same location. Tilde is just a shortcut for that. So I could also do something like local documents, which is the name of a folder I have in my user folder. And you can see that comes up, and then hitting return takes me right to that. So you can use this as a quick way to navigate to a specific folder if you know exactly where it is. And if you want to send somebody an email, a text message, you can do that using Spotlight. So start by typing their name, then go down to the contacts section. Now, you'll see their email address here, and there'll be buttons next to it. If you move your cursor there, you can start a message or an email just by clicking there, and it will launch the appropriate app. And also type kind and then contact, and then the name, and it will only show you contacts. And from there, if you hit return, it opens up the contact app. And here you can hit different buttons like message, email, or call or video chat with them over FaceTime. Now, one of the reasons to be able to use this is if you have a folder filled with tons of files, maybe it's an old project from work, and those files keep showing up in your Spotlight results, but they're not really relevant anymore. If you add the folder here, then you'll exclude these files, and the results you'll get will be more of what you want. And there's even more you can do with Spotlight. For instance, I didn't even mention that you can get stock prices. You can get Wikipedia information. You can get things from other apps you've got, like, for instance, reminders and notes. If you think about it, there's really nothing that you need to use Spotlight for. You can do every other function using another app or in the Finder or some other way. Spotlight is primarily a productivity tool. It helps you get to the information and things that you need faster. That's why it's so important to be able to master it to get the most from your Mac.
So we got one more thing to look at here. Back to the meeting. Hello. Stop sharing. Okay, there we go. We have one more thing left on the agenda that you didn't get to see last time, and it may be worthwhile. This is that little clip program that I told you about last time. This is a very short video. It's called Copy Clip, and it's only 3 minutes long. So let her rip.
But you need what you copied a couple of copies ago.
Rick, you need to share your screen.
Hey folks, I've been off the air for a couple of weeks only because it's...
Thank you. Share screen, here we go. Sorry about that. You'd think I'd be learning by now. Okay.
But you need what you copied the air for a couple of weeks only because it's summer right now here in Prophetstown. But don't worry, I will be back to my more regular schedule soon. In the meantime, today I have put together a short and sweet tutorial for all of you about one of my favorite new free apps for the Mac. And by the end of this video, you're going to wonder how you ever lived without Copy Clip. Coming up next on Tech Talk America. The app that I'm about to teach you is especially helpful for those of you out there who regularly use the copy and paste feature on your Mac. So let me ask you this. How many times have you found yourself in a situation where you don't need what you just copied, but you need what you copied a couple of copies ago, or even maybe from the previous day? Wouldn't it be nice if you could just access the entire clipboard history with one click? Well, you need to get Copy Clip. I have a link for you down below in the video description, or you can find it in the App Store. It's totally free, takes up 2 megabytes of space. When was the last time you were able to say that? And it's really easy to use. And to show you how to use it, let's now switch to my Mac. When you launch Copy Clip, you'll see it appear here in the menu bar at the top right corner of your Mac. Let's start by going here into Preferences. This is definitely one of those apps that you'll probably want to have start as soon as you turn on your computer. So I'd strongly recommend that you check this feature right here. As you can see here, we have total control when it comes to how far into the past that we can access. And if there are any apps that you don't want Copy Clip to have access to, you can specify them here in exceptions. I did want to mention that if you use a password management app like LastPass, Dashlane, or 1Password, you might want to list those apps as exceptions, especially if you use a shared computer. I also wanted to mention that in doing my research for this class, I did read their privacy policy, and it did passed my personal litmus test. In order to demonstrate how to use this app, just prior to filming this segment, I copied a bunch of items just to show a history. When I pull up Copy Clip here in the menu bar, you can see each of those items listed below. Now, in order to paste any of these, I can either select the item in the list and then press Command V, just as you normally would paste using your keyboard, or I can also use the corresponding hotkey that you see listed just to the right. I really hope you guys enjoy this app. If you do, please be sure to let me know so down below in the comments section. I can tell you that for me personally, this app has saved a ton of time and frustration, and I use it literally every day. Be sure to hit that like button, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and make sure you hit that little bell icon for notifications. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This is David A. Cox with Tech Talk America. Class dismissed.
I like that guy. He's got some good stuff. Tech Talk America. He has one on iMovie, the entire.
I'd surprise you, but I actually don't like to customize my Mac all that much, because when I do have to erase my Mac, I don't want to have too much customizing and rebuilding to do. I usually end up rebuilding.
Something else running now.
What is running?
Partially because I'm a nerd and I kind of like it, but I'm also always having to.
There we go. Somebody popped up there. Okay, copy there, back there. I didn't stop YouTube. Sorry about that. Anyway, David Aycock has got some good stuff out there. A lot of it is free. He's a freelance Mac consultant, and you can hire him if you want to pay $160 an hour. And he will come and hold your hand by video. But he's, as I say, he's got some good stuff out there that's free. I use it, or used to use it in my senior center presentations a fair amount. Yeah, Lee Wagner, welcome to you from Oregon.
Hi there, Rick. Rick, do you happen to know if that copy clip crosses over with the iCloud to your other devices?
No.
Okay.
I'm sure not.
When I do a copy now, I can copy on my iPad and paste on my iMac.
Oh, well, then I may be wrong on that, Lee. I might be wrong.
Well, that would be the current item of the clipboard, but not
Yeah,
the
current item.
previous 80 items.
There are many of these programs if you Google it, and some of them are free and some of them are paid. I think there's some reviews of where they review multiple ones and what one does which feature, and you probably have to pay for the higher end features. Some of them are free, and if you want extra features in that program, then you pay for a pro version or such.
Thank you.
Sure. I saw an article recently comparing clipboards. Mac OS clipboard review. You're amazed what Google can find.
Yes, it really is. What did you discover, John, when you did that?
I remember, I've always thought I should be using something like this. And I've tried a few of them before, and I never really take to it, you know? What I do is I just keep text edit open, and I copy and paste stuff there and build up a couple of things so I can go paste them at a couple different places. That's just a habit. I don't like to install software. Like Andy Anako has this rule. I don't want to install any utilities. I try to use what the Mac has, because if I go to another computer and I have tons of them all over the place, I don't want to say, oh, I didn't install that, or I have to upgrade this. I want to use what the Mac has so it works the same when I go to somebody else's computer. And for the first time I've ever seen it, I don't want to say, oh, you don't have that utility. I just use what's built in, try to.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed what you can do with built-in software.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, witness that Spotlight video.
Yes. Stuff I never knew.
That's one piece of built-in software that I never use, because I always use Easy Find, and I love it.
Yeah.
To me, it works better than Spotlight.
I could never remember all that stuff.
It was wild. It was amazing, all those things that he did with it.
Yes.
But thank you for that little blurb, Rick, on that copy clip, because I did download it and I wasn't sure how to use it. So thank you.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, some of the stuff that seems most simple sometimes can be the most useful.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I have nothing else to add here today. So.
Rick, in the middle of today's meeting, I lost the meeting. It just went away, and I finally had to sign out and come back in. What made that happen?
I do not know, but as I recall, you said you have AT&T for DSL.
Yeah, not DSL.
Internet.
Uverse.
Yeah, Uverse, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Uverse is.
I've had
Well,
several Zoom.
From
I've had
what
several
I've been
Zoom meetings where
reading,
at
is
least one person.
AT&T is trying to kick away Uverse and DSL both. So my thought
Depends
is,
on which Uverse you have. You have the old Uverse, or you can get fiber.
yeah, do you
Uverse
have
over
fiber to your house?
I have no idea.
You would know because they would be bombarding your mailbox with offers to switch.
No.
Yeah. Well, chances are you're running on copper wires that AT&T just detests. They want to get rid of it because it's too much maintenance. Whereas on the internet with fiber or cable.
Jennifer Langdon raised her hand. Somebody let her answer.
Oh yeah.
I have the previous topic. Carbon copy cloner needed an upgrade to go with the upgrade to my operating system on my computer.
Yeah, it's a free upgrade.
It's just do it online then. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Carbon copy cloner, the upgrades happen all the time and they're free. Same with Super Duper.
Thank you. Thanks
Sure.
for the meeting.
Love carbon copy cloner. That's my favorite.
Okay, thank you.
I use
it every
I
day.
back up my iMac with Super Duper. I back up my MacBook Pro with Carbon Copy Cloner just to keep my hand in it.
Thank
The
you.
one benefit that Carbon Copy Cloner has that Super Duper doesn't is you can clone individual folders, which is great. If you only want to clone your documents folder, you want to clone your whole hard drive, it makes it really fast. You can make clones of anything you want, and it's wonderful.
It also clones the recovery drive.
Yes. Yes. it
Okay,
does.
I'm going to leave the meeting and go do that.
Okay. The meeting is just about done. Don, you raised your hand.
I was waving at Jenny.
Oh, okay.
We must be getting near the end. My AirPod battery died in this side, so that means I've been on too long.
Ah. I was just going to say, does everybody remember the actress Barbara Bell Geddes? I think Jennifer is a spitting image of her.
Yes, Alex.
Anyway, I have nothing else. Shall we-
Great
Rick.
meeting. Lots of stuff, Rick. Thank you. Lots of information.
Good.
Fun.
Glad it helps.
Great.
Likely, good Lord willing, see you next week. Same time,
Yes.
same station.
Oh, you know,
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll see you, Rick.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Everybody wave goodbye. Wave to the YouTube boozers. We're gonna stop the recording.
Okay, Rick,
See you later.
Rick, stay on for some housekeeping.
Okay.